Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. You may recognize this outfit from another video because I am filming a few videos today, but this has been really weighing on my heart to talk to you guys about, so I thought this would be the perfect time to talk about this. So today I want to come and tell you guys what I wish I'd known before interning in Washington, D.C. As some of you may know, if you have been subscribed to my channel for a while now, or if you are just clicking on this video, I was a congressional intern this past summer in Washington, D.C. So I worked for my representative in my district back home, and so I moved to D.C. for 2 months and did an internship at the Capitol building, which was a phenomenal experience. But there were definitely some things that kind of were a curveball to me that a lot of you have mentioned you wanted to intern in DC as well, and I thought I would just share some of that information with you so that maybe you can have an even better experience than I did. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, so I have this little notepad here, just written down some of my thoughts. If you see me glancing down, that's probably what I'm looking at. But the first thing I wanted to mention was knowing how important the fashion is there. And I know that sounds really dumb as kind of like a first tip, but to be honest with you, this really changed a lot. So Washington, D.C. is obviously very East Coast. The fashion is important. It's kind of like almost like hoity-toity, like everyone kind of knows their place, has an attitude. And I mean, it's a very fast-paced environment. Everyone there is very professional and important. So it's very crucial to dress the part if you want to be taken seriously. I really tried to have good outfits picked out, look professional, and look appropriate for every situation I went to. I would dress up more if I were going to be going to like a special briefing, or if I was going to be meeting a representative. But if it was just a day like sitting at my desk, I would still make sure I looked appropriate to be in the office because you never know who's going to pop in. And I know there were some people who did not dress appropriately and just kind of wore things that were, you know, too casual for Congress, and they were kind of looked down upon, not like in a judgy way, oh, you're not good enough for me type of thing, but like, we probably don't want to hire them type of thing because they clearly don't really know how to look professional. So that's just kind of a little pointer I'd have, is to really make sure that you look the part. Okay, and going along with that, I'd say definitely have a really good pair of walking shoes. I thought that before I began interning that it was a lot of the high heels thing for women, and so I packed all of my high heels and I was ready for that, and I had like one pair of flats, and then I got there and I began walking over 7 miles a day because I was giving tours and running bills and just any kind of dirty work they needed me to do, and I was just in so much pain and I was having blisters, and I really just wasn't in a good headspace to be able to do work. So I ended up getting a few pairs of flats, which I wore the majority of the time, only wore heels a few times, but definitely ladies getting comfortable shoes and men getting comfortable shoes as well, and making sure they're broken in is a must. So that should be what you invest money in before you go. Okay, so my next tip is to be prepared to be really busy and really bored in the office. So when I started interning, there were a lot of bills that were being passed that were pretty contentious. For example, the immigration bill. So I was very busy answering phone calls and emails and whatever necessary along that bill. So my days went by very quickly. But later into August, when Congress was not in session, it became very difficult because a lot of the days were very long. And while there was still work to be done, you know, 8 hours is not easily filled. So just be prepared to make sure you stay busy so that whoever you work for doesn't think you're just there to kind of slack off and play on your phone, and that you make sure that you kind of are able to pace yourself when doing those tasks. Okay, another tip I have is kind of more of the moving aspect. So if you're not from the area of Washington, D.C., or you don't have a relative or a family member that you can stay with for however long you're there, finding a place to live is very difficult. There's a lot of places that will try and make it easy for you to live there by presenting all these wonderful deals, and oh, if you live here, you know, you can have, we'll take you to all these experiences, only that if you live here you can have, and if you live in this intern housing you'll get to meet so and so, but it's for an exorbitant price, and a lot of the times where you're actually staying is not very nice, like no air conditioning, in a bad part of town, like not close to any metro system. So just really make sure you do your research and find a place that is easy for you and is easily accessible, because at the end of the day, you don't want to have to bus over an hour to go home or anything like that. Like, it's just insane. And keep in mind, housing will be expensive wherever you are, but there are cheaper versions. So you guys may see from my other videos, I stayed at George Washington University for 2 months. So it wasn't cheap, but it was way less expensive than some of the other options. So definitely just look around. All right, another tip is to know ahead what you want to experience. And obviously you kind of may have in your mind how it will look working for Congress, but this is in terms of outside activities, like maybe what elected officials you want to meet or what museums you may want to attend. And that may kind of sound crazy, but I really found that even after 2 months of being there were so many things that I had kind of skipped over because I hadn't made a list of my to-dos, what I really wanted to do while I was in DC. And a lot of the representatives I was able to meet and really important political figures that I was just dying to be able to get a photo op with, you really had to schedule them into your schedule in terms of maybe asking your boss if you can take an early lunch to go and meet someone or go and hear a conference. And a lot of those things you can't just do last minute. You need to have been signed up months in advance. So I just say, if you're planning on going to Washington, D.C., to just have already kind of decided what you want to make sure you're able to do. All right. And my final tip here is to be humble. And I know that may sound kind of crazy, but trust me when I say that if you walk into a congressional office, or really any office in general, and you just act all high and mighty and like you have all this experience and you're like God's gift to the office, you're not really going to be treated very well. And everyone else in the office who is paid and earned their spot is not really going to respect you and give you any work or good letters of recommendation. I had a lot of experiences with some people who I heard from other offices came in and were just expecting so much kind of like privilege for like, oh, I was able to work for Congress, but you're an intern, and just kind of know that you're there to help them and get some experience, but you yourself are pretty disposable, and so you should be just happy for whatever work they can give you and not really expecting too much. So just again, do that, and then you will get wonderful letters of recommendation. You may be invited back or maybe even hired in the future. So just keep that in mind. Alright guys, so those are some of my main tips for Washington, D.C. I know they were pretty basic, but I hope they kind of helped you guys see a little bit more of maybe not the, I don't know, top of the list items that people will tell you about going to Washington, D.C. There's so many more things that I could recommend. I don't want to make this video go on forever. So if there's anything else you guys want me to talk about, or if there was an experience you saw that I had, or just any more specific questions that you guys have for me, please leave them in the comments down below, and I will try and make another video explaining any other situation that you guys might have, or just more in depth on what I already talked about. But I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!